Welcome to Psychedelics and Sexuality, the global online summit. Welcome to our free online event. My name is Luc van Poelje. I'm the founder of Psychedelic Insights, and I'm here to share a little bit about my perspectives and lessons learned after guiding well over 1,200 plus clients from all over the world in high-dose psilocybin truffle experiences. We're here to address a couple of things: psychedelics. Well, how is it defined? What are they? The history, taking a psychedelic, and actually the reality of psychedelics. What happens to me when I take a psychedelic? What are the consequences? Why do people do it? We at Psychedelic Insights provide the guidance, the psychological guidance of psychedelic experiences with legal, natural, fresh psilocybin truffles. We do this in private settings with private clients, sometimes double guided, sometimes single guided, with clients literally from all over the world. Here's a beautiful image of Mark, one of our clients. He actually was recording his entire session to make a documentary of his own healing process. And there was a photojournalist on the day, which he didn't mind, which was quite intimate. As you can see in the expression on his face, you can actually feel how deep he went and how deep his experience was and how completely mind blown he is coming back to what we call normal reality, the sober state of being. And I'm here to share you the lessons learned through guiding well over 1,000 international clients. What are psychedelics? Well, according to Wikipedia, psychedelics are a subclass of hallucinogenic drugs. I don't really like the term hallucinogenic, but that's how it's called generally, whose primary effect is to trigger non-ordinary states of consciousness and an apparent expansion of consciousness. An entheogen is a psychoactive substance that induces altered states in perception, mood, consciousness, cognition, or behavior for the purpose of spiritual development and use in sacred ceremonies. Psychedelic experience is often compared to non-ordinary states of consciousness that you can also find in meditation, near-death experiences, and mystical, or, for lack of a better word, religious experiences that involve ego dissolution. That is sort of a disassociation of the self and a becoming one with everything, which is a deeply profound experience that can be achieved in high dose experiences with complete surrender, and it doesn't happen every time. But it's a classical mystical experience, and there are specific surveys to measure these type of experiences, and they can be deeply profound and have a significant impact on people's psychology and philosophy. Yes, the history of humankind is a mystery, as is its use of psychedelics, but it seems to go hand in hand. And it's hard to prove things, but there are ideas and hypotheses about specific art and use of psychedelics. When there is an archaeological find and they find chemical residue of certain compounds. There's rock or cave art in Algeria. There's the bee man that are found deep inside caves. In the Amazon basin in South America, the use of compounds of brews like ayahuasca may have a history of 10 or even 20,000 years. These are deeply profound experiences that have a very significant spiritual message, and can be deeply changing for many people. And since the psychedelic renaissance, the last 10 years, thousands and thousands of people have had experiences with Indian tribes in Peru, in Colombia, and Brazil with ayahuasca, as well as in the Netherlands or Jamaica or Costa Rica or Mexico, where many tens of thousands of people a year come to have an experience for as many different reasons as there are people. But most people seem to be informed about them through the medical route out of their political condemnation. But it has a long history. So a lot of civilizations in the past have used psychedelics. The Egyptians, the Tibetans, the Celts, the Mayas, the Aztecs, the Vedics, and the Greeks. Everyone we know from ancient Greece has been to the Eleusinian mystery schools. You came as a man, you left as a god. Obviously, it was run by women. And you were not allowed to speak about it. It didn't last for 200 years, but it lasted for an unimaginable 2,000 years. And even early Christianity and Judaism have used psychedelics based on the tradition of the mystery schools. And when the Roman Empire adopted Christianity as their primary religion, psychedelics and women who used to lead those sessions and ceremonies were not welcome. And of course, in the last 10 years, thanks to a lot of research and specifically medicalizing the effects that psychedelics have, they have found a route back on the radar, back into the mainstream, and they caused an entire new industry to come into existence, where people also like myself have started to guide people in these experiences. So to do the psychological guidance of these psychedelic experiences, they can be deeply impactful to people. So a lot of preparation is really of great benefit, and to have a guided experience can people really feel safe and secure that they are in good hands and they have nothing to fear. Why do people take a psychedelic? That's a very good question. I think there's a couple of reasons, but there must be as many reasons as there are people doing it. But I think curiosity is one factor. You can read a lot of articles about people, and you see a lot of testimonials from people, and it can really trigger your curiosity. If you read about the history, it's a fascinating topic. You can hijack an entire dinner conversation, and it's a real rabbit hole. So as a human, and as human experiences go, the psychedelics have been shown to be measured upon the most significant and profound experiences over a lifetime. So curiosity is certainly a motivation. Maybe even more so medical or psychological reasons. Uh, many people, 20% in the first world suffer from mental health issues in their lifetime. But that's 1 in 5 people that really suffer from anything from depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive behavior, OCD, and of course PTSD. Any type of trauma can cause this. And there's a lot of other trauma as well, anything from childhood, even birth. And the science apparently is finding out that there's a wide range of these psychological effects that can be helped, not to say cured, but people can have insights. They get the key to their own metaphorical heart or mind to see their inner workings and to better understand themselves, so they can have more grip on how they respond to reality and to triggers that they normally have less or little control over if you're talking trauma responses. Self-development, there's nothing wrong with you to actually do a psychedelic. It may be medicalized, especially in the Americas. But self-development, as is spiritual development, is something that it has been used for throughout eons. So all these ancient civilizations, they've had the use of psychedelics to harvest knowledge, deep gnosis of the other world, what they used to call the realm of the dead or the spirit world. It sounds all a little bit sinister, but we can call it other dimensions or whatever you want to call it. In this psychedelic state, in the no-mind state, there is a space where we can attain information that can be of use to us, that can feel very convincing, and that can feel very, very real. And we can use this for the betterment of ourselves and our relationships, and to better understand our own place in the universe. So how do you prepare for taking a psychedelic once you've chosen a specific psychedelic, that is? Because there are many with many very different experiences. No psychedelic is alike, although on a molecular level they all seem to be very closely related to a serotonin molecule. It has more or less the same receptors that it uses, although a lot of research has still to find out really what is going on. But how do you prepare for a psychedelic in general terms? We work with psilocybin truffles, so mostly it's about information and education. So you do inform yourself. It's about trusting your gut feeling and your intuition. And if you have a specific motivation, be it healing or be it curiosity or spiritual or personal development, there's a compound that can have specific benefits. That you have psilocybin, there's like peyote or San Pedro, or there's ayahuasca, there's iboga, many different compounds. Also chemical compounds like LSD or ketamine can have profound effects on our healing journey through life. So selecting one, having information and education is very important. Then to be mentally prepared and to understand that it can have spiritual consequences for you. Even you may not even believe in anything spiritual. You may believe that we are a biological chemical reaction. These experiences have been used for spirituality and spiritual growth and knowledge throughout the centuries. So the mental and spiritual preparation is very important, because the set and setting is part of this. So the intention setting and journaling is also something that is at the core of what we can call healing sessions. If healing is the objective, but the intention setting is about the intention with which you do the psychedelic. With our clients, we like to frame it as a question, so they can keep asking it over and over again whenever they have the consciousness to do so. So what stands between me and self-acceptance? What stands between me and self-love? Or what stands between me and more inner peace? It can be a lot of things. We try not to ask why am I, and then X a symptom, why am I anxious or why am I depressed, but we rather, what stands between me and inner peace or self-acceptance, etc. Because obvious that you can stick a label to it or diagnosis, but that is not really what psychedelics are about. They are just categories of expressions of stress, in my personal view. The set and setting is really the most important concept before going into a psychedelic experience. You want to be in the right frame of mind, the right mindset, so to say. You want to be prepared. You may be very anxious, but still you can be prepared. And the setting is, of course, that you have a safe setting, that no strangers are going to walk into the door. You won't see the gaze of strangers, because you can feel very open and you're very receptive to quote unquote other people's energy. And any inauthenticity is really, really felt. So having a set and setting that is really kept sacred with all sincerity is really the basis of a good journey. So what are the challenges when taking a psychedelic? These are just some of them that can be considered. This is not a complete list, and most of this is my personal opinion, so it's not scientific. But being honest with yourself is a very good start, because you can't really be fooled in a psychedelic. Shame seems to be a very low vibration, where authenticity is the highest. From a more spiritual perspective, you are created by the universe, and you are unique, and you are meant to be, and your authenticity is of the utmost importance. And having shame doesn't contribute to a good psychedelic experiences. But another thing that is or can be problematic, that is ego, which can be categorized as also resistance or control, which is all fear-driven, but it can manifest in different ways. It can be a problem if not well contained, going into the experience, especially with the onset of the psychedelic. All these things matter. It's very logical to experience anxiety, because somehow the ego knows that it's going to be its turn to be examined, and anxiety is is a common response to the idea that you're going to lose control. It's not that you're going to lose control completely. However, a surrender to the psychedelic experience is of the utmost importance for a real smooth ride and having a good psychedelic experience. You cannot try and resist it. It is extremely powerful. So to ride that wave with ease and have a deep breath to relax and to just absorb the experience is a tool that can be used to benefit yourself during the experience. Also to trust it. We use truffles, so we like to say you can trust the truffle. But trusting your set and setting, trusting your guide, and trusting the medicine, trusting the compound, trusting the psychedelic is very, very important. Because safety is always number 1, 2, and 3. And that goes hand in hand with trust. So whenever you do something with a psychedelic and you're with other people, make sure that you can really trust them. If not, my advice would be not to do it. Your own mind is where you're going, and the concept of mind may require some redefinition. Personally, I think the mind is non-local. Personally, I think the brain is a biological receiver that can be chemically tuned with psilocybin or LSD or DMT or psychedelic compounds or hormones or neurotransmitters, cortisol, adrenaline, what have you. And they all influence our perception or our mood or our consciousness. All your memories, all your fears, everything about reality, from the temperature to what you see, pretty much everything is processed in your mind or in your brain. And that's where you're going. So our advice is always to keep your eyes closed while using a psychedelic for healing purposes, for really transformational purposes. This is how we work. That's not to say that going into nature with a psychedelic is not a life-transforming experience. It's absolutely beautiful. But if you want to work on yourself, closing your eyes is a portal into the unlimited universe that is your mind. Once you've selected your psychedelic, obviously the next question is, how much do we take? And what is going to happen once I take it? So that's the dose and the onset. Trust and anxiety go hand in hand, because it's always a little bit like stepping into the abyss, even though you've done that many times. Specific compounds have specific customs or advice or rules for beneficial experience. If we take psilocybin or psilocybin truffles or mushrooms, they are extremely great at being able to be used, from a microdose to a macrodose and everything in between. So microdosing for work to mini dosing at for a walk in the forest or at a festival, or doing a really classic high dose for deep introspection, can be a big difference in the experience. Once the onset of the psychedelic is there, to go really into the experience is what it's all about. Because you're living now in the, I'm assuming, in the problem-solving state of consciousness. But once you commit, then the whole trick is to just surrender to the experience, to give in, to stop the resistance, to really, really feel it. And breath is a tool to help you get there, deal with the onset of what might sometimes feel like a lot. But surrender is the key. Where are we going once we surrender? Yeah, that is into what we can call the mind. But it's like what is the difference between normal thinking? One comparison I like to make is your field of vision. You don't really see the boundary, and the same as thinking. You don't really feel the boundary. But with a lower dose, you can think less deep than with a higher dose. So you feel more confined somehow with a lower dose when we're talking psilocybin, for instance. And when you experience things beyond the mind in an emotional state, that is where the subconscious lives, beyond the mind. There where the feelings are. And when you can finally process feelings or have deep psychedelic insights that can be, profoundly meaningful to you, they can sometimes help you with the convictions that you carry deep inside at a subconscious level. Because we're all not good enough for some reason, based on the trauma that we experienced. And last but certainly not least, once we're in and we have surrendered and we have seen lessons and we're past the psychology, if we go in deeper, yes, we return to where we come from, and that is the mystical, the oneness. And these mystical experiences, they have a specific definition. But once you experience it, it is no longer you and your body that are experiencing it. It is just your consciousness, your mind, that can be dissolved into everything and encompass everything. You can be the bird, the water, and the cloud, and feel a complete oneness of everything. It can be deeply life-changing, and these experiences are sometimes called religious experiences, mystical experiences, ego death, and they are typically involved in taking a higher dose or specific compounds that take you there immediately. So what happens when you finally enter the psychedelic state? Depending on your experience on the day, which can be different every day, if you were to trip every day, but it can be different every trip. And it can certainly be different with the different compounds. Ayahuasca is different than LSD, it's different than psilocybin, it's different than mescaline, it's different than ketamine, different than iboga, different than MDMA, if that's a psychedelic. But here's a list that is not conclusive and it's not complete, but I'll just name a few. Accessing the unconscious. Memorizing meaningful life events, even though you may have forgotten them. Memories can come back. Emotional processing and release. This is really the biggest healing component out there, because the entire medical establishment will try and keep you away from the symptoms, because it's so symptom focused. You know, we're not allowed to have pain. We're not allowed to have awkward feelings. So we get medicated to stay away. Why do psychedelics work so well for so many things? Maybe it's because it's very easy to navigate there in a non-threatening way, in a way that doesn't upset you. We get to learn that the shadow that we live in is really caused by our own subconscious convictions, often. Uh, so, um, Emotional processing and release is sometimes characterized by a good cry, by laughter, sometimes by shivers, sometimes by yawning. It's your system releasing stress. Heightened creativity, acceptance, deeper self understanding, and self insight. We can have visionary insights. Sometimes when music is played, and we always play music when we have clients that trip. Personally, I also always use music. This is hard to describe, but it will be one with your experience. It's like the river of your experience, or the wallpaper of your experience. So the synesthesia can really take effect, and it's hard to explain. Euphoria, love, and bliss are commonly associated with the non-mind state, with the opening of the heart and the lowering of the default mode network of the ego. When you're flooded with serotonin and dopamine. Uh, in higher states of consciousness, euphoria, love, and bliss are more or less the standard state, I dare to claim. And mystical religious states of consciousness, facing truth about self and life, compassion for others, transcending your belief systems that are often very limiting, because the reality of the psychedelic is not really questioned after you've taken it. It feels more real than this reality. You can enter deep meditative states. You can have clear visions about your dreams and your purpose in life, because you're a biological window of consciousness in a vast dead universe. And there are unanswered questions. We don't seem to ask a lot of these big questions because we're too busy surviving in our economic world. Confrontation with self or hidden emotions, transforming pain and negative patterns, discovering unmet needs, and uncovering unconscious patterns. You can actually feel safe in the face of fear. It's like with an ego death. People often think they are dying, but as soon as that happens, you automatically straight after find the euphoria, love, and feelings of bliss. The gift of standing in your own power, in your own vulnerability and its strength. So the sacred state of surrender, to make peace with your pain and your grief, so you can let that briefcase behind that you've been dragging all along and feel lighter. Healing the split between your mind, heart, and spirit, something that doesn't really have a place in science or in mental health or the medical establishment. These are real concepts that are more of wisdom traditions. And overcoming limiting thought patterns, that you're not good enough, that you not meant for success or not meant to be loved, that you're unworthy somehow. And it's easy to identify how much you are the saboteur of your own world. And we have to step out of that shadow. And dismantling that system of self-sabotage is sometimes at the core of the psychedelic experience. And then, you can have all these different experiences. And then, when you get back, it's pretty hard to put words to these experiences because the words are so limiting. They do not fit the concepts and the grandness of your experience. You're really dumbstruck, flabbergasted, if you will, often by a deep psychedelic experience. So the ineffability is a real thing. Uh, and to quote Terence McKenna, one of the most famous psychonauts, it's a secret because it cannot be described. And I think that is a beautiful way of describing what is often at the core of the experience. It's very hard to convey what it is that you felt, experienced, and saw, and how it affected you in words to others. Another concept is the ego death, the mystical or God experience. It is really a dissociation with the identification of you as a body. It's no longer you lying in the bed. It is your consciousness and your awareness that are somewhere else, because it's called a trip because you're going somewhere. And at one point, it can be visual, it can be energetic, it can be felt in different ways. But just before that happens, yeah, it can be very frightening. You can actually feel like you're dying, but that can be something positive. Not that the caterpillar would be eager to become the butterfly when it thinks it's about to die, but yeah, it can be compared to that process. It can be scary nonetheless, but it can feel like absolute bliss straight after. This sense of oneness, to become part of this intelligent field that may be at the core of everything that is. And what is, yeah, that can be this cosmic love oneness, this yeah, this knowing, this field, um, this expanded consciousness, and this all knowing can be a field that you can attain in a high psychedelic dose. I think it can be compared to the Hinduistic concept of the Akasha records, that in that state you have access to everything that ever was and anything that could ever be. But you can only attain it there, and you can't bring anything back. But you know it when you're there, when you know when you returned from it, that was actually the case. And it's a deeply fascinating state of being that can be achieved in higher doses. Some compounds are better at getting you there than others. Gnosis, yeah, the deep knowing, beyond doubt, is often what happens with people after a psychedelic. Whatever that their personal quote unquote psychedelic insights, about your self worth, your place in the universe, uh, memories that come back, uh, yeah, deep, profound insights. They are not questioned after the psychedelic. They are like, it's like hard knowledge, and psychedelics are often categorized by this deep knowing. Yes, one phase further, and we can have a better understanding of our emotions and the role of the ego that is really there to protect us. Often the ego is seen or described or portrayed as something that is really negative, but it's like our guard dog. It doesn't need to be mean and bark at everything, but once it had to really bark at something, often we need to teach it to not bark at everything ever after, and we can be befriended. And yeah, it plays a role in our trauma responses, where we are less in control about how we respond when we feel emotions that are not pleasant, when our traumas are triggered. And what psychedelics do is they create more space between the trigger and the response. So you have more response abilities. So imagine a dashboard, and there's not just one panic button there, but there's also a button to request a pause. There's a button to ask more questions. There's a button to delay, and there can be many other buttons that can be added to your menu and to your quote unquote response abilities when you're triggered in your pain. There are different concepts that I described in the previous slides that can have a deep impact in how we experience psychedelic and in how we can come out of it. Psychedelics have the ability to reshape certain concepts, concepts around love, concepts around connection, that can have a deep effect on how we see ourselves and how we treat ourselves and others and the relationships we have. There are deep convictions inside of us that keep us really small. That is really the shadow in which we live. We're all not good enough for some reason, and there are many other reasons many other convictions that we can carry. That we're unlovable. That we need to work hard to be seen, or that we really need to be nice to be loved. These are all things that are untrue. We can be authentic and be loved. We can be completely ourselves. And these are the convictions that can be addressed or seen or experienced in a psychedelic state. That can be deeply emotional when when we have the ability to visit them and redefine them. And that also involves values and morals. We can sit on a high horse and think and have opinions and judgments, but really they are fears, and we can revisit those and come to nuance them, or not serve them as a whole dish and let them cool a little and better understand what we're really afraid of. Ultimately, psychedelics allow you to be in better connection with yourself and in better connection with others and the world around you. And this concept of cosmic love is central to this experience of bliss, or to this field, or to this blanket of light that can embrace you and all your pain. And it is a concept that feels very hippie, but it may be the same field that the quantum physics speak of, and there are very interesting parallels. Yeah, coming back after a psychedelic experience, what I tell most of my clients is that I can't promise anything, except that probably they will be staring into the distance in silence. Why? Because often the download or the experience has been so vast and so grand that it's really hard to stick words to it. So they need to digest a little bit, and it's like a big drip. It has to take a little time to all enter your system and your consciousness. And you can be in awe of new profound truths. You can feel more connected. You can feel more balanced and find inner peace, and that the chatter inside your head has ceased, and that the inner critic has stopped speaking. Many things can happen. You can feel less likely to comment on anything and complain less. People describe feeling reset, being deconditioned, having a sense of purpose, is sometimes a dramatic experience. Sometimes people have seen that their life has been purposelessness, and that they have an opportunity to have a whole new life. These are very dramatic experiences. Uh, but of course, feeling or having a sense of purpose, it can be extremely meaningful. Uh, Experiencing more self-love, more self-acceptance, yeah, that's a very big deal for most of us. We're all critical of ourselves, maybe, and having a deep realization on an emotional and subconscious level of the self-love that we can really attain and carry in our hearts can be deeply meaningful and life-changing. Feeling less stress, having delayed triggers, and be more observant are, of course, luxuries in terms of self-development and how you carry yourself as a person and how you're seen as a person. So these are just a few of the realizations that you may have after a psychedelic. Do you always change after a psychedelic? No, of course not. You don't need to change. It's not that you become a different person. It can often have an impact on you. That is absolutely true, and it can be very deep. It can change your philosophy. Uh, so yeah, life after psychedelics. Yeah, being understood and heard can be a thing, especially with people that are not familiar with psychedelics. You know, they can just ask you, so yeah, you felt good when you did drugs. That that can feel really like a cold shower when you've had the embrace of God, for instance. You know, if you had a blanket of warm light, you know that can make you feel like you belong in the universe and that you are important and that you have a mission and a purpose and that you have the right to be loved. So yeah, having a changed energy is very common. Having a changed psychology and philosophy is very common. Uh, Obviously, when you go to a different place that you can call another dimension, yeah, your philosophy may well change if you start to realize that maybe this is not the only realm of reality. It's always nice to look at physics, you know, in parallel and discover, you know, what truth may be out there. And with the change of philosophy, yeah, the psychology will also change. But obviously, on a psychological level, and you're talking about self-love and valuing yourself and experiencing less anxiety, uh, can have a big, deep psychological impact. Same as your values, they're often fear-based. If they're or if you carry a lot of judgment, uh, these things can be seen in a different light. Your interests may change. Um it's very common for people to steer away from yeah, things they used to like. Uh, yes, I think a change in consciousness or experience or conscious experience of deeply meaningful personal things. Yes, they can lead to a changed interest and really a changed set of priorities. What you really think is important in life, because life is a deadly disease. And once we accept that and we understand that there's no escape, uh, yeah, it becomes spiritual or philosophical or even religious in that context. But yeah, you can change your priorities. You know, you can maybe not be harmful or greedy, and maybe more compassionate or having a life of service. It can change. So these are things that can happen through the deep insights of the psychedelic. So what happens life after the psychedelic? Integration is often mentioned as the most important part of taking a psychedelic that is seen within a healing context often. It has to do with the intention, because yeah, your brain is a biological part of you. It may have grown over 20, 30, 40, 50 years into a specific way of thinking, and those neural pathways won't change easily. Although uh, yeah, it's called magic for a reason, I always say. But you have to give it time. Uh, Science believed that neurogenesis was really not on the menu, after your 20s, but with compounds like psilocybin and others, yeah, the neuroplasticity and neurogenesis are real things. So you can escape your thinking patterns, your negativity, your depression, your inner critic, your anxiety. They can be addressed. So there are no absolutes and there are no promises. We are all uniquely unique, but the integration allows for change. But you have to put in the effort. It doesn't come for free. The psychedelics are not a pill that you are changed. You actually need to put in the work in order to change. So if you surround your environment, yeah, then yeah, you are likely to change. You can make sense of it. You can have to put things into practice. You have to measure it. And what I think is the most important thing is to stay compassionate with yourself when you fall back into old patterns, because there's not a straight line in healing. You can observe it happening. You can adapt to new habits, to being more mindful, being more patient, avoiding stressful situations, taking better care, managing your energy and energy of others, and stay true and stay humble and seek friendly help, because you don't need to do it all yourself. Well, this concludes my perspective on psychedelics, primarily psilocybin truffle use, based on my experiences with psychedelic insights. It's been a privilege to talk to you and share my personal perspectives. I hope they cause controversy or discussion. More people know more than one, and everyone's experience is different. Let it be said that psychedelics are certainly not for everyone. They are not safe for everyone. Uh, there are some psychiatric medications that can really cause serious harm, and there are also yeah, medications like antidepressants that make you feel very little. So make sure that whenever you embark on an adventure that involves a psychedelic, that you're in good, preferably professional hands. Be well advised, well informed, and follow your gut, follow your instincts. They know something about the future. So I wish you farewell. Breathe deeply, as in life, and thank you for visiting Psychedelics and Sexuality, the Global Online Summit.